This is a quick start navigation guide for the Probabilistic Risk Assessment for AI workbook tool by Karma. First, we will make a copy of the workbook from the current website page. We'll scroll down to the bottom here and go to the workbook. Here we will download a copy. We'll pass through each tab in version 0.9.1 alpha and briefly discuss its purpose and use. The cover sheet contains a brief introduction to PRA and Karma. For more information and the most recent updates, you'll want to visit the project website, which we were just at. The landing page shows an outline of the risk assessment process and highlights the most important tabs. The table of contents is a more complete list of tabs with links to the corresponding sections in the user guide. The user guide itself contains comprehensive instructions for the tool and a great deal of relevant context. It contains two important drop-down menus as well in Section 4 that determine the assessment settings and customize instructions for later in the workbook. It is also available as a PDF on the project website. The risk assessment entry log is where most of an assessor's work will take place. At the top is the system information. Once filled in by the user, this will also show up in the report card and the output log tabs. Below that are the input columns for the main assessment. The pre-populated examples here are not part of the assessment, but they give an idea of what the final product should look like. We'll discuss this tab and the user guide in greater depth in the assessment process video. The Harm Severity Levels Definition Table, or HSL tab, defines worsening categories of harm and lists some examples of what might meet the threshold for each. The Likelihood Levels table shows likelihood ranges and some anchoring examples for use by assessors. The Risk Detail table gives examples of plausible harms across the 6 severity levels for a number of aspects and aspect groups. These are categories that Karma recommends considering, and some thought-provoking examples of how each might lead to harm, whether the dangers come from competence or incompetence on the part of an assessed AI. You may find it useful to reference the plausible qualifiers in this table when generating and clarifying risk scenarios. Risk pathway operators aid assessments that consider how risks propagate and amplify as AI systems interact with their environments. The Aspect Interactions matrix helps assessors consider second-order interactions between aspects of AI capabilities and their environments. The Focused Aggregation Definition table contains an optional alternative grouping for scenarios that assessors identify. It is pre-populated with default categories, but these can be customized. The Taxonomy tab describes the aspects that Karma recommends considering and lists these aspects in full. These include aspects centered on the AI itself or on the environment it operates in. We plan to populate the additional levels in these columns as part of a later workbook version. The risk levels table shows how likelihood ranges combine with harm severity to yield risk levels from 0 to 9, with 9 being the most severe. At the end of the assessment, the report card will show the highest risks gleaned from the assessment. The headers are automatically populated from the entry log. The risk level summary shows the highest risks in each aspect group. Sorting further by first and second order and by pathway enhanced if these tools were used. The focused aggregation summary and the chart to the right will show an alternate grouping determined by the contents of the entry log and of the focused aggregation definition tab. The visibility button shows or hides the risk levels, which default to NA, or not applicable, before the assessment is done. Users will need to enable scripts. Like so. The Finalize button allows accessors to finalize and generate a static version of the entry log, preserving the final risk scenarios, assumptions, and data for future reference. This text will appear here in the Risk Assessment Output log. Finally, the Tallied Risk Matrix shows a count of all scenarios grouped by likelihood and harm levels. In the next video, we will go through the assessment process in greater detail, as well as reviewing the contents of the user guide.